Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with my first update for this year for my Pan Those Eyeshadows. I do have a semi-exciting update, some things are rolling out, but I will get into that in a second. But before I do so, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's just jump into the video. So just a quick recap of my rolls this year, how they compare to other years. This year I am only working on 4 eyeshadows instead of 5, just because I have a few other eyeshadow products, or like I'm working on eyeshadows in other projects and I just don't want to overwhelm myself, so I decided to go with 4 this year. And I have also introduced a usage goal of 15 for certain eyeshadows. My main goal is still going to be to hit pan, but on certain eyeshadows or formulas that are more difficult to hit pan on, or simply things that I don't want to hit pan on, I have introduced that 15 use goal, just so I can kind of use the eyeshadow more strategically. And obviously if I do still hit pan, that's amazing, but it's just for certain formulas. I wanted to introduce that because I wanted to be able to rotate through more of my eyeshadows this year, because one of my goals this year is to use my whole collection, because I did hit pan on some of the lashes last year and I was very focused on those eyeshadows specifically. So yeah, that's why I wanted to add in that usage goal. But yeah, those are basically the 2 main changes. So without any further ado, let's talk about the 4 eyeshadows that I was working on for the last month. So the first eyeshadow that I have to talk about is my Burberry eyeshadow, and this is one of their sheer eyeshadows in the shade Rosewood. This one I rolled in at the last update. Obviously I rolled in all of them at the last update because that wasn't the introduction, but I have been working on this for 1 month, and this is what the eyeshadow looked like at the introduction. Not too much use. This eyeshadow that I don't really reach for much in my collection, but yeah, I'm happy to say that I did actually hit pan on this. You can see there in the middle that I do have a bit of a pan. It took me 10 uses to hit pan on this, and then I did use it an additional 1 time to expand that pan a tiny bit. As you can see, there's a little bit of a dip around it, but this pan is very kind of small. Partly I used it that way because it is such a beautiful pattern in this eyeshadow and I didn't want to ruin it too much. And secondly, I did actually find that this worked really well as an eyebrow shade for me, so I used it a couple of times like that, and I also used it on my lids a few times. I did a 1 shadow look with this once, just using it all over my lid. I used it actually in my crease, I think twice or 3 times as well, and then I did of course use it in my eyebrows, and that's why the pan is like so narrow. But yeah, I really enjoyed this eyeshadow. I'm glad I got to play with it because it's an eyeshadow that it was very much kind of untouched, or again, not completely untouched, but not loved enough in my collection. So I'm now happy to have pan on it and also have some more use on this eyeshadow and a single like this, because I don't really reach for my individual compact singles very much. The second eyeshadow I was working on comes from my Natasha Denona gold palette, a very reflective palette. As you can see, I'm going completely dark, but yeah, I was working on the shade Alchemist in here. Alchemist, which is a beautiful gold shade. I had used this a handful of times before rolling it into this project, especially since last year I was using this palette in one of my projects. I think I wanted to use it 30 times, so obviously I had used this eyeshadow already, but I have reached for this actually 15 more times, and that is what it looks like now. So there is a decent dip in here, but I don't think I'm anywhere near pan. I think this will probably take me another 15 uses at least to hit pan, but I did hit my 15 uses goal, and I will be rolling this out because this is one of those eyeshadows that I want to use to look more used rather than necessarily pan on, because yeah, I do want to have more dips and things in eyeshadows specifically, and not to dig a hole, but you know, like similar to the Burberry eyeshadow where I focus very specifically on specific space in the eyeshadow, and I just want my eyeshadows to look more kind of evenly worn, and that's what I wanted with this one. But yeah, I'm rolling this one out again after 15 uses. Next up we have my Sultry palette, and in here I was working on the shade Bloom, and Bloom is this beautiful pinky shade. It's actually kind of the outlier in the palette, but it still goes with the color story, so it makes sense in the palette, but it's definitely the bright purple color in this palette. And this is what Bloom looks like now. I don't think you're gonna be able to see much use on it. I've only used this 4 times in the past month, so not too many times, but hopefully you can see a little bit of a disturbance in the pan. But I definitely think there's going to be another 15 uses before I hit pan, because it's a very kind of densely packed eyeshadow. I feel like with the Anastasia formula, sometimes the mattes can be quite hardly pressed like this one, or they're more kind of crumbly like some other shades, especially I feel like in the older palettes like Modern Renaissance and Novena palette specifically. But it also depends on the shade and stuff, but this one is definitely more hard pressed, so I think this is going to be one that I use 15 times and then roll out. But yeah, I only have 4 uses on it this month because this wasn't a focus shade, but I definitely think I'm going to hit my 15 uses on this in the next month because I only have 11 to go. And since we are more in February now, I love those kind of pinky tones for that season, and this actually goes really well with pinky tones. I have used it a couple times with my Modern Renaissance and those kind of pinky tones in there, and it works really well. It just makes it a bit warmer rather than like really cool tone pinks. And then I think as well we are moving closer to spring, so we'll be more likely to reach for spring toned eyeshadow looks as well. So yeah, I definitely think I will be able to roll this out by next update. The final eyeshadow that I'm working on in this project is one of my Cleona eyeshadows, and this is one of the jeweled multichromes in the shade Weld. Weld is a beautiful, I think you're gonna see mainly the kind of rosy tone right there, but it's a beautiful, maybe you can see the green if I shift it like that. I don't know where to catch it. I'm still in my new flat, so I don't know if you can see the shift, but I think you can catch the green a little bit there. But this is a beautiful multichrome that goes, like I said, from a really bright green to almost like a golden shade, and then that pink mauve tone shift as well. I'm actually wearing this on my nails. I don't know again how well you'll be able to pick it up, but yeah, keep an eye on them in the video. Maybe you'll be able to see the shifts, because yeah, it goes from that mauve tone, like I said, to a really bright green, which I don't seem to be able to catch on camera. But anyway, I have used this eyeshadow 5 times in the past month, so I have 10 uses to go, and this is one of those eyeshadows that I do want to use 15 times. I do not want to hit pan on this yet because I really treasure these eyeshadows, and I don't want to like unnecessarily use them, and I want to be really gentle with them. And also with the Cleona eyeshadows, you usually just need a really thin layer because they are very pigmented, especially the jeweled multichromes. I mean, I use this for my nails, and you can see that I barely even have a dip. And normally when I do my nails with eyeshadows, usually I have to apply, like I have to almost not dig into the eyeshadow, but I have to pick up quite a lot of pigment for it to show up on my nails. But I just did one layer, and you can see that it worked perfectly. So that is this eyeshadow, and I'm gonna try to roll this out in the next month, but it's not a shade that I can use every single day. I think one thing that I want to try next month is using this as an eyeliner, because I haven't done that yet, and that's one way that I really like using these jeweled multichromes, because since they are a bit deeper, it's not again something that I want to wear all over my lid for an everyday look. So that's something I'm going to try for next month, and if I do enjoy it, I might be able to roll this out by the next update, but if not, this might stay in for another 2 months. Okay, so since I did hit goal on 2 eyeshadows, I hit pan on the Burberry eyeshadow, and I hit my 15 uses goal on my Natasha Denona eyeshadow. I will be rolling 2 new shades in, and one rule that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video is that I roll something that is too similar to something in my Panda palette, which is again the Modern Renaissance palette. I will go ahead and re-roll, so I will check that once I get the eyeshadows, but otherwise we should be able to work on anything that I have in my collection. So let's just go ahead and randomize. So the first number is gonna be number 52. Okay, so I was actually really excited because I saw that this came from my Sultry palette, but it's actually an eyeshadow that I already have pan on in there. It's the shade Teak, so I will have to re-roll, but I would have been really excited to have a second shade in the Sultry palette, but that's just how it goes. So let's go ahead and re-roll, and that's gonna be number 447. Oh, this is a nice one. It's actually an eyeshadow from my Oden's Eye Elva palette. And it is the first shade in the palette, which is Jasmine. I'm actually currently working on this palette in my, I think it's my deck of panning, as a focus palette. So it's exciting that I'm rolling a shade from there, because that means I can continue working on it. But yeah, it is the shade Jasmine, which is the first shade, and I actually have no idea what that is. It might be a matte, but we'll see that when I get the palette. And then the second eyeshadow that I'm going to work on is going to be 802, which should be one of my singles. So let's see what that is. Okay, another exciting one. This is an eyeshadow from Terra Moons, and it is in the shade Rubidium, which is one of their really metallic, kind of like metally ones. Like you'll see when I get it out, it's like, I think they have like one that's more kind of white gold, one is more kind of silver, and one is more rose gold. But they're beautiful eyeshadows. I don't know which one this is. I know it's not like the white gold one, because I have that in my focus palette at the month, and it is the shade Cassium. So Cassium, I don't know, but anyway, this is one of those eyeshadows, so I'm excited to work on that. So those are going to be the 2 eyeshadows that I'm going to bring into this project. So let me go and get those, and I will be right back. Okay, so I'm back with my 2 eyeshadows. The first one, like I said, came from my Elva palette by Oden's Eye. This is a really exciting one because it is a new palette to me. It's actually, I think, my newest palette that I picked up, apart from one that I picked up and I literally got like 2 days ago. I picked up the Natasha Denona Mini Retro, but apart from that, this is my newest eyeshadow palette together with the Red Dragon palette also from Odin's Eye. So I'm excited to pull something in from here, and the shade that I'm going to work on is definitely going to work. It is the shade Jasmine, which is this shade up here. So it's like light transition shade. I don't think it's light enough for me to use as a blending shade, but it's perfect as a first transition. So I'm really excited to use this, and I definitely think it's something I'm going to easily be able to incorporate. And I don't think this is close to anything in my Pan That palette, so I'm still going to be happy to work on that. So I'm going to keep that one in. And I just realized I forgot to swatch everything that I've been showing you, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then also swatch out this new eyeshadow. Okay, so these are the two eyeshadows that I'm rolling out. We have the Burberry eyeshadow right here, and then the Natasha Denona eyeshadow. So those two are the ones rolling out. And here we have my color story so far. We have Bloom from the Natasha Denona Sultry palette. Then we have here the eyeshadow from Cleona, which is called Weld. And again, maybe you'll be able to catch the shift, not quite sure, but that is what it looks like. And then at the bottom here we have Jasmine, which is that really light. It has like a peachy undertone, but again, it's more about first transition shade, and I think that's going to be something that's really easy to reach for, and I might be able to roll that out even next month. But yeah, those are my first 3 shades. Then the last eyeshadow that I'm rolling in is Rubidium, and hopefully you can see here what I mean. It's like a super metallic eyeshadow. I'll swatch it out and you'll see even more what I mean. But this one is again from Terra Moons, and it's a beautiful kind of bronzy, like cool tone bronze. Again, it's so reflective, but it's a beautiful eyeshadow, and I'm really excited to work on this. But since today is one of my newest eyeshadow, but also one of my indie eyeshadows, I probably will use this 15 times rather than hit pan on it. But again, I'm very excited to be working on this one. And I mean, just look at that pigment. It's incredible. I don't even know if the camera does it justice, but it's such a reflective shade, and I'm so excited to work on this. So there you have Rubidium, and I think now you can see the shine, like compared to the other shimmers. Like it's, I mean, even here, like that is Natasha Denona shimmer, which is something that's super sparkly, super shimmery, but like they don't even compare. Like it's, yeah, and I still have so much on my finger, like a little bit goes a very long way. But that is my color story for the next month. I'm very excited. Yeah, I think in the next month I should be able to roll out hopefully Bloom, maybe even this new one, and then potentially even Rubidium. I don't know if I'll be able to work on that and use it 15 times in the next month, but I'm gonna try. But that is gonna be my color story, and before I wrap up this video, let's just go through some of my favorite looks from the past month. So I have a couple of looks I'm gonna breeze through because I am only wearing one eyeshadow in them from my quintet, which is my, oh, actually not quintet anymore, quad, which is the Natasha Denona gold eyeshadow. So let me go through these quickly first. This one here, I'm wearing it, and in most of these looks I'm actually wearing it underneath an eyeshadow I was panning in my product Level Up, which is the voice eyeshadow from the Child palette from Colourpop. So in this look I'm wearing that, and all my masks come from my palette. I'm wearing Red Ochre. I think I might be wearing Golden Ochre, and I can't remember, either Raw Sienna or Burnt Orange. But I'm wearing all my masks from there, so that's the first look. Here we have another look where I'm wearing them too much together, and I'm pairing that with some peachy shades. I'm actually wearing Bloom in this look. I forgot about it, but I'm wearing that on my outer corner, and then a lighter peachy shade in my crease. And honestly, I did a lot of variations of these two looks throughout the month, and that's usually how I used Alchemist. I used it a couple times on its own, and I have a picture of that later on, but a lot of the time I did pair it with the Force because I was using those two golden shades together. Next up we actually have a look here that is the one and done eyeshadow look I did with the Burberry eyeshadow. So you can see here, it's literally all over my lid, it's in my crease and then blended out. So that's the only eyeshadow I'm wearing, and then I'm wearing an inner corner highlight, but it's a really simple look. I paired it with a bold lip because, yeah, it was just a nice easy look, and I wanted to focus on my lips in this eyeshadow look. So that is what Rosewood looks on its own. Then this last look is actually my favorite look, I think, out of the ones I'm sharing with you, and this is one where I used Bloom again on my outer corner and also in my crease. I also think I'd put a little bit of Red Ochre from my Modern Renaissance again on my outer corner just to deepen it up a tiny bit, but it's mainly Bloom. And again, I'm pairing it with a lighter peach shade that I have in my whole collection product pan in my crease. And then on my lid I am wearing Alchemist, and that's what it looks like on its own. I know the lighting isn't the best in this photo, but hopefully you can get an idea of the look, and I really loved how this came out. I actually used this when I filmed this is actually look I did my product Level Up update. So that is the look, you can see it better probably in that video. Granted, I was very tired filming that because it was really early in the morning. I filmed that just before work, so it was like 7 a.m. I was really tired and the ring light was super bright, so I do look a bit tired in that video, but you can get a better idea of the look. But those are basically the looks I have to share with you. I actually didn't take a photo of the look I did with Weld, but it was also in my video. I did have it in my... I can't remember. My Panda palette of the one? No. I can't remember what videos. Let me look. But I did with Wear Weld in one of my videos. I think I worked in 2 videos. But it was the video, for example, my product Apocalypse introduction, so you can check it out there. But I didn't actually take any photos of it, so I will try to do that for next month. But again, that is my first update for my Pan Those Eyeshadows. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And otherwise, I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.